Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Trump Trolls Trump. I am going to mock somebody. Guess who? Yes, stop using my name. I'm pretty sure you guys can figure it out. It has been one full year, I am so sorry to say, into what Donald once erroneously called the Golden Age. I'm actually a little surprised he didn't go for platinum. But, he likes those shiny gold objects. We, on the other hand, have suffered through the last 369 days since the inauguration on January 20th, 2025. And yeah, we are looking back at week 53. It has been relentless. The damage being done by Donald and the Trump regime is real and potentially permanent. But we're here to remember something essential. While dangerous and cruel and reckless, the Trump regime is also wildly incompetent, which is why once a week we take a breath and, while calling out the lies, we do one of our favorite things. We call upon our superhero. No, that would be a superpower. I mean, do we have is there a superhero in the house? Hello, please. Superhero on aisle 5. On aisle 5. We need your superpower of mockery. We don't need a superhero. We have ourselves because we know how to mock the absurd. And the absurd, well, that's Donald. And basically everybody he knows. So let's dive in by shining a light on the chaos and putting these idiots in their place. Obviously, the big focus this week was the fact that Donald destroyed American credibility, like nail in the coffin destroyed. It's over. While he was at the World Economic Forum in Davos, he went in by demanding Greenland be given to him, as if, it was just like throwing somebody the keys to a brand new car. And he claimed that it was the least NATO could do for the United States because apparently those NATO slackers have never paid a dime and have never, ever helped the United States with anything. All of it was absurd, also deeply insulting, but it was framed as the test of a master deal maker's negotiating skill. Sorry, I can't get through that with a straight face. That ship, I was going to say that ship has long sailed, but that ship doesn't exist. So in advance of the trip, Donald's allies, because they're stupid, were feeling confident. For example, his economic advisor. For example, economic advisor Kevin Hassett went on Fox Day TV to discuss Donald's ability to negotiate with Europe. Let's take a look.
The president obviously often escalates to de-escalate when he is deal making, but Europe is pretty outraged over this. These 8 states deployed their militaries as a symbolic defense against a NATO ally. The French president seemed to compare the U.S. to Russia even, saying, quote, "No intimidation nor threat will influence us, neither in Ukraine nor in Greenland." What kind of an impact could that have?
The one thing I've learned, Jackie, is that when you are engaged in negotiation with any country and with President Trump, that you'll see both sides take very strong, extreme positions. But in the end, the president is the person who wrote the art of the deal because he's so good at deal making.
Again, a myth that has been debunked for decades. And also, he didn't write the art of the deal. That would be Tony Schwartz who wrote the art of the deal. Just also another quick thing. Escalate to de-escalate just means threaten and bully and blackmail. So yes, very, very nuanced, sophisticated deal maker is Donald not. There's more. It was not just Kevin Hassett hyping Donald's so-called and non-existent negotiating skills. That's not entirely fair. I think that holding your breath and stomping your feet until you pass out and turn blue may actually be effective in some quarters if you have the world's most powerful military and endless supplies of cash. But anyway, getting back to Ava Brown, White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt, she wanted to assure the nation also that Donald is a master negotiator in so many different ways. So many. And if you disagree, well, fuck you. Because that's basically how Karoline Leavitt approaches everything when she doesn't get her way. So let's, if we must, hear what she had to say.
So we'll see how these negotiations continue. But I would, again, just point out that to everyone who thinks this is a very ambitious and perhaps crazy idea as it's being spun up in the media, this is something presidents have talked about for a long time. And look at the deals President Trump has been able to broker over the past year. The release of the Israeli hostages, 8 wars solved because of his negotiating skills. Anyone who doubts President Trump clearly has not been paying attention.
Yes. We haven't been paying attention. Which is fascinating, because the one thing Donald actually is good at is sucking all the oxygen out of the room and turning all the cameras onto him. Seriously, this person, Donald, is the most famous person on the planet. He's the most recognizable. His name, his face, his stupidity, these all precede him. He could not be more famous if he tried. And trust me, he tries. Here's the thing, though. For him, being on the front page of pretty much every newspaper on the planet on a daily basis, it's still not enough. It is still not enough to convince people or change people's minds that he's actually terrible at everything other than getting attention. Next up is the alleged dealmaker in chief himself. Donald, who is increasingly erratic, went on News Nation this week, a very safe perch for him to land, for an interview with Katie Pavlich. She asked him a range of questions, but one in particular about his legislative agenda for 2026 turned out to be especially revealing. And I have to be honest with you. I was skeptical because, as I mentioned, it would be very difficult at this point to convince me that Donald is anything but a benighted moron. He's a completely failed businessman who could declare bankruptcy 6 times, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. However, I was not prepared for the 3D chess he's been planning for 2026. This might shake you to your core. I hope you're sitting down. Here is a peek behind the curtain of the brilliant and, you know what? Instead of my describing it for you, just take a look and be prepared to admit we were all wrong about Donald's genius.
Last year, you worked with Congress very closely, Republicans in charge of both the House and the Senate. And of course, you're in the White House and you worked with them on the big, beautiful bill. For 2026, especially in a midterm election year, what is your goal for Congress in terms of getting your agenda through? What is on the agenda? What expectations do you have for Congress?
Well, one of the things I'd like to do, we pass so many executive orders. I have great executive orders that are really common sense and good and like water coming out of a sink. The water wouldn't come out. They had all sorts of ridiculous restrictions. I took all of that off. Coming out of the shower head, you'd stand under a shower, there's no water coming out. So I passed so many things like that, straws. They don't have to be paper anymore. They don't have to melt in your mouth. So I passed so many different things like that and much more important things, but like that. They're important, the quality of life. And I'd like to have all of that confirmed by Congress if we can. And we've done a lot of it. We've done probably 35, 40%. I'd like to get them all confirmed.
Okay. I'm going to start with the least troubling aspect of that first. Executive orders don't require working with Congress at all. They also don't mean anything. So there's that. I don't really know what else to say, except, Donald, I'm so sorry that I I underestimated you. I almost said misunderestimated you because so many of my brain cells just died watching that clip. I'm starting to speak like George W. Bush. I think that person sitting in the chair across from him should get an Academy Award. You know what? I should give her my Academy Award that Meryl Streep gave to me, because she didn't laugh at him, and that's acting chops. Thanks for watching this week's episode of Trump Trolls Trump. Please help us spread the mockery by liking and sharing this video with your friends, and please, as a personal favor to me, with your enemies, or even better, with my enemies. We can't stop making fun of these people, ever. So please, subscribe to the Mary Trump Media channel if you haven't already.